morning to everyone. So at this session, I'm the European Union. It means that I'm going to deal with the European Union perspective on Russian Federation, and I have my 10 minutes, yes, Hannah, but I cannot escape from taking 1 minute from this 10 and say that I subscribe very much to the words of Margarita and Jeremy with regards to the role of the Aleksanteri-instituutti in one's life, and this is my life. And I don't know where you believe in special moments which sometimes meet all of us and which determine our future. I do believe. And this was I'm talking about my coming to Helsinki, being a visiting fellow in the spring 3 years ago, and then continuing, how Hannah nicely said it, coming back all the time. So it was a special moment, and it was a special moment both professionally and I would say, I don't know, humanly, so to say. And please, it was a really privilege, and please, these words are for all of my colleagues and friends at the Aleksanteri-instituutti, but especially to Marku, to Hanna, to Vladimir, Anna, to you, to Eva, and to all of you. Thank you very much. And now to the core, but it was also a core, what I said previously, but to the second core. And the second core is the European Union. And I have to be very schematic, since 9 minutes is not a lot of time. I would start with saying that I proceed from two preconditions. I tried to build my presentation as schematic as possible, meaning that 1, 2, 3, I thought it would be the right, since the shortage of time. So the first precondition is that the European Union, I'm not going to talk about the member states, I'm talking only about the European Union. And the European Union is a significant player with regards to Russia, with its own agenda and with its own set of priorities and with its own position. Number one. And number two is that, and this is trivial, but still, Russia was always very high, or rather high, or high at the agenda setting of the European Union, regardless, and being seen as a challenge, regardless of the nature of this challenge. It was always quite high with the two, again, trivial reasons, meaning the geographic proximity. What kind of neighbor do we have? If I'm playing European Union now, what kind of neighbor do we have? And how much do we depend on him? So basically I'm talking about mutual economic interdependence between European Union and Russia. Today I would like to, the topic is immense. Today I would like to touch on two things. One is the aspect of trust or distrust to Russia, and the other is the perception of Russian strength or weakness in the European Union. When I was thinking how I should do it, I thought that it's a commonplace to understand whether you want to understand where we stand now. What you do, you compare it with the previous period. And when you're talking about the Russian perception of political development in Russia, what you do, you compare the point where we stay now with the 90s. And then you see this huge difference. Okay, it's a commonplace, but I will do the same. So I will compare what we had in 90s, and then very briefly, and then coming to what we have now, trying to show this tremendous difference that have occurred with regards to in very short period of time. So about 90s. On my opinion, there were, with regard to Russia in the European Union, there were two types of fears. These fears were different in nature, but they coexisted. The one fear was the restoration of the communism in Russia, and that's why one of the effects of this perception was that Boris Yeltsin has the very free hands in doing what he wants inside Russia, because for the European Union, he was the main guarantee of non-restoration of the communist rule in Russia. So the fear of restoration, while the other fear was having a weak and non-governed giant. Yeah, you have a neighbor whom you cannot control, and he's as large as you can imagine, and so on and so forth. Two fears at the same time, but the remedy was one for two fears. In the common words, you can put it as, we will help you being like us. So the general idea was that Russia needed help. Russia needed help. Whether the help was effective or non-effective is a completely different question, and it needs much more time. But still, Russia, it is a weak country, and it needs help. As for the trust, I believe that there were no trust for Russia also in 90s, because trust is a rare plant. You cannot grow very fast. But it was kind of a credit of trust. We could trust you if show us reforms and we will develop this trust. This was not the case. Now look where we stand now. Having in mind what I have just said, what we have now, we would find a completely different perspective or thinking about Russia in the European Union. What changed, and and now coming to where is consensus within, or almost consensus within the European Union. First thing is that trust is totally undermined. No trust anymore, and this is also, it's not a lot to speculate about this. But what could be interesting consideration probably, that on my opinion, this is not no trust to Putin as such. This is worse, because this is also no trust in a way to Russian future. Meaning that whenever Putin will be at some point replaced by, let's say, Navalny, the situation wouldn't change. So it's a deeper distrust than personal distrust to Putin. This is the first thing, and the second thing that about reforms in Russia. Russia needs no help, because Russia cannot, Russian economy or Russia's system, or how Alena Ledeneva puts it nicely, sistema, is either non-reformable at all, it can only be broken or destroyed, or, to put it more mild thing, is that Mr. Putin has no incentives to do reforms. And the sanctions, by the way, did not do, their effect is marginal or negligible, and so on and so forth. So this is the no reforms, and this means no help. And the third point is that Russia's presence is substantially increases Russia's presence and Russia's interference into the European affairs, meaning in what is going on in the area of the European Union. Indirect ways, direct ways, so Russia's presence is growing. Besides that, what we have new, these are new questions, just to mention them, which we didn't have, which the European Union didn't have at 90s. One question is about the common neighborhood. What should European Union do with regard to the common neighborhood countries, with regard to Russia? This is a new question, okay, not new as such, but still. The other question is, should the EU back the American hard position? Or should it solidarize with the America in sanctions, in being hard, in trying to restrain Russia that much or not? So this is also another angle of the problem. And now coming to the answers, so to say, or maybe to not more than answers, because these are how I see it. This is my personal perspective. How I see it, the different perspectives, having in mind all what I said, different perspectives with regard to Russia. The first perspective is, and this relates to the Russian relative strength or weakness. The first, and I have three of them. So the first is that Russia is very weak. This perspective ignores somehow the Russia's geopolitical ambition and says Russia is weak internally. Look what we have. We have corruption. They have corruption without end. They have the arrests. So they have this Ulikaev affairs. 3 minutes. Thank you very much. We have the 5 governors. All arrested and prosecuted. It means that regime is, so to say, is eating its own children. So why shouldn't we wait? So why shouldn't we wait? We cannot do anything. So just wait, and it will be, the situation will somehow, so how I put it, for me, the fruit is already rotten. And we just need to wait till it will fall on the ground. The second perspective is quite different, saying that Russia is weak economically, but it plays a strong actor with regards to geopolitical ambitions and with regards to in military terms. And from here you have two other kind of, not scenarios, but two other maybe smaller perspectives. First perspective is very well known. It is known under the name, let's do business as usual with Russia. Okay, with some limitations, okay, with some accusations, with some lamentations to Putin that he did this and that. But still, the general idea is making business as usual. And the idea is not, don't irritate Putin, don't provoke Putin. Putin wants to go to the east, let him go to the east. Let him, as little attention to the European Union as, so this is good. He wants to play in another regions. He wants to be the boss in a different region of Central Asia. He wants to make deals with China, let him do it. Let him do it and not provoke him. This is one idea. The other idea is much more radical, saying that, okay, Russia has the geopolitical ambitions and military capacity. Russia is dangerous. It's not necessarily whether Russia is weak or strong. Russia is dangerous. And Russia should be restrained. Maybe isolated, maybe not, but it should be restrained. And with the purpose of not helping Russia, remember 90s, but making Russia even as weaker as it is now. So in contributing into Russia's weakness. And my last words would be about the thing that I think these two ideas of business as usual or constraining Russia, from the European perspective, they both look problematic. The first thing with the business as usual and don't provoke Putin. The problem here and the consideration here is that you never know when he will be provoked. You can do nothing and he still think that he's provoked. So for the internal reasons, for the internal audience, he can and will maintain the level of the conflict with the European Union that he wish at a certain moment. So from this perspective, I don't think this strategy as business as usual is reasonable, it's fruitful. The other, and Hannah, I'm really just finishing now, so this is about the restricting Russia coming closer to the US position on Russia. Here we have to take into consideration the institutional design of the European Union. And the foreign policy of the European Union is very complicated, and it needs consensus. And it was so difficult to reach consensus on current sanctions, which are now under operation against Russia. I don't think that this is very, very probable that having in mind this difference in the country attitudes within the European Union could increase the level of sanctions, being it comparable or going closer to the US. Okay, so here I stop, and I think probably what I said we could discuss then when we have discussions. Thank you.